This is a demo um, to show you how to set up a still life, an interesting still life to draw. So the first thing is kind of basically gathering all your materials. So I've got, you notice I used a box to set my still life on so that my still life, when I sit down and look at it, I'm more at an angle with it. So I'm not looking down on it. So it feels a little bit more important that way. I used a large white piece of paper to kind of create that seamless white background. You don't have to do that. Sometimes it's actually nice to have a seam in the background because it helps with the figure ground relationship, which is really important. But it can also be nice in creating just a simple background so you don't have to worry about the background as much, or you can see how the shadows fall on the simple piece of paper. I've also collected a lot of still life objects. So I've got some succulents over here. I've got plant, more succulents. I've got a yogurt container that I can use for adjusting height. And then I got a bunch of kids' toys. 3 of them involving vehicles. So I've got 2 different things. Oh, hold on. Let me show you. There we go. So some kids' toys, some extra succulents. And I've got my sketch pad. So I've got 2 different themes. I've got the succulent plant theme going on, and then I've got the kid toy thing. And I'm going to play with both of those. And then up, you'll see I've got one of those Target lights that has the 3-way stationary light, but then it also has this light that I can move around. And then I've also got over here one of those kind of selfie tripods, but it also has a light attached to it. So that's another movable light that I can use. If I didn't have those, another option would be using just a desk lamp and putting it kind of getting it plugged in and in different places. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start playing with the succulents. So I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see the still life a little better. One of the things you notice is that the succulent on the right is really scraggly, right? And then the one on the left is really nice looking. And one of the reasons before that is because I can keep succulents alive, but they never end up looking great. So the one on the left I haven't had very long. The one on the right I've had for quite a while. I think I actually grew that from just a succulent leaf. But it's kind of funky looking, right? So I'm going to play around with, I want to create relationship. I don't know that the tomato fits, but I thought, the tomato's fun in that it's it looks round like this, and maybe if I could have the kind of squirrely part of the tomato looking at that succulent. But it's a very horizontal drawing right now. So this is where my that could come in handy. And ultimately, I can just draw that. I can ignore the detail on that and draw that just as a shape that elevates that one succulent. And then I'm going to try moving it back, create a little more overlapping. So I'm thinking through how are these things overlapping? Are they overlapping in an interesting way? Can I see what's going on? I like the overlapping, but I've lost some of that really cool swirl of that giant stalk of the scraggly succulent. So I'm just kind of trying to think through. I'm going to try drawing it without some of the details in the pots and see if I can still emphasize that. So when you get to a point where you're I think it's kind of interesting, this is where you do one of your compositional sketches. You'll see that these sketches are not necessarily about being pretty or even getting details in. What's important is that you put the things kind of in the place where you want them to be. You're testing out the overall composition. So you're looking at, okay, what's the general place, the size, the proportion, and then also you'll see how does it fit in the frame. So this is more of a horizontal composition, so it's got more of a horizontal frame. And this way I kind of get a sense of like, is the composition interesting? How the things are arranged. And that's what you're trying to look for. Okay, so I've sketched that, and I'm gonna just keep, I want to adjust a couple more things just to see what could happen if I shift things in tiny ways. That's kind of fun. I could also try, since I'm not really attached to this back succulent, it just provides a nice visual contrast. I could put in the little master gardener. I actually kind of like that. But again, like, I'm losing some of that interaction between the succulent and the tomato. So I might see what happens when I put the master gardener over there. Maybe give him a small boost again. Might be fun as if I could figure out how to tilt him down. Go back to this. Whoops. Oh, knock it all over. If I've got some sticky tack, I could and let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to try sketching that real quick. So you notice that because this still life is more vertical, I've drawn it in a portrait orientation. So it doesn't matter for this project, but you do want to think about like, how are you filling that space of the frame nicely? And now I'm going to put the succulents away, and I'm going to start playing with the toys and see if I can get anything interesting there. Or actually, I just remembered I had this cut flower. So I wonder if we can kind of get the little troll with the cut flower, and what would be an interesting, just the tomato again. See if that's kind of move that in the other direction. Okay, I'll sketch it. Always worth a quick sketch. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention is that my choice of life flowers is actually a bad choice, because you want still life objects that aren't going to wilt or change over the course of the 3 weeks that we are drawing this still life. So the tomato surprisingly will actually last for 3 weeks, especially since it's a little bit on the raw side right now, or on the underripe side. The flowers will not last 3 weeks. My succulents will last 3 weeks. My toys will last 3 weeks. So you kind of want to be thinking through making sure that you're choosing objects that do last for 3 weeks. So even if I like this, I'm going to choose not to draw it because, again, that flower is going to fade and wilt. Dried flowers, totally okay. Fake flowers, totally okay. Oops. Hey, troll. Okay, so now I'm gonna play with, let's see, let's do Thomas, BB-8. Could have, you know what? I think this is a fun interaction of the, like, face-to-face, the face-off of the cars. And then here's the judge. Ready, set, go. I need a little space in between her, so I'm just gonna put this eraser. I'm not gonna draw the eraser, but as a spacer. And then I'll try drawing that. Then I'm gonna set up a race. I think I'm gonna kind of go, like, who's coming in. Last. 1, 2, 3. But man, there's no vertical. Like, that is uninteresting to look at. So let's just play around a little bit more with creating something vertically interesting with the toys. So can I tilt this up? It's this. Have that there. We're gonna need another. Okay. Can do Kleenex box. And let's see. Still haven't tried out BB-8. And maybe up here, facing Thomas. Okay. Let's just do one last sketch. This ends up feeling, even though I adjusted the height of the actual objects, it kind of feels a little boxy still. So ultimately, I think my favorite one was of the troll as Master Gardener, with the vertical one I did with the succulent coming down and the tomato. So I'm going to reset that up and I'm going to start to play with lighting now. So because the lighting's actually coming from both sides, it feels a little bit kind of dim in the front, and I don't like that. I want to make sure things are well lit and illuminated and it's not casting weird shadows on itself. So I'm gonna turn this in towards the front a little bit so you can start to see that in the video, but it really won't matter because I won't draw it. And I'm gonna come in with this light on the other side. And that's looking a little better. I can try to see what happens if I make this a higher, like from above light. Yeah, kind of like that. It catches it in interesting ways. I'm going to keep playing. Everything's from above. It illuminates the troll face pretty well. Got the tomato there, and we can see the different parts of the succulents in that big swoop. Yeah, so the last thing I want to figure out is if I can get that troll to tilt over. So if you have blue tack, or that kind of sticky tack that you put posters on walls, this can be a nice thing to mold. Could also chew a piece of gum if you don't mind the grossness of putting that on your still life objects. But I think that works pretty well. I like how it's leaning over and it's kind of mirroring the angle of that. Oops, didn't work. So I put a little prop there, and I can remove the prop very carefully to look at the feet, but that'll help keep it up there. So again, I get that angle so it feels like the Master Gardener is leaning in. So I'm gonna fix his hair. And then I feel like that's pretty good. I like how the lighting's hitting the tomato, the plants, the troll face. And I think it'll make an interesting drawing.